Milepost 4, Choosing to be Whole, the Gateway of Equity. In the weeks that followed my release from the hospital, the only thing I had to focus on was my heart. Doctor's orders were simple: no physical activity and no stress. So I sat and I wrote. I wrote to try to understand. One evening, after climbing into bed, I grabbed my journal and started pouring my heart out on paper. When I saw the stark honesty in black and white, I gained a clear understanding of what I had been doing to myself for the first time. The words leapt from the page. I imagine my half-hearted attempt when compared to the full commitment I'm expecting from God. I have made half-hearted attempts in the past and then had a heart that worked at half capacity. I had gone from giving my full heart to a half-hearted attempt. My body's response was in perfect integrity with the choices I had made as a result of living a lesser, counterfeit life. I had received a gift. That gift was a heart attack. The recovery period that followed provided the silent moments that were vital to take inventory of my life and my choices. I had mercifully received the time and space I had needed to find the truth about who I am and how I had been neglecting my gifts. My mind naturally had only been reflecting on past experience and logic to establish truth. I did find truth, but it was my heart that confirmed my discovery. The heart recognizes truth instantly, even if it is a completely new concept. It was perfect that my heart became still, because it was in that stillness that I was finally able to hear. Immovable momentum. Before we move into the final gateway, we need to understand an important principle. I call this principle immovable momentum. Is it even possible to be immovable and have momentum at the same time? Sounds like an oxymoron. A paradox. The definition of immovable, according to Google, is not able to be moved. Momentum, however, means the quantity of motion of a moving body measured as a product of its mass and velocity. In other words, the faster it goes, the faster it goes. So how can a word that basically means stationary be coupled with a word that means increasing motion? The terms are almost in direct opposition to one another. Opposition, but not opposite. Think of two people tugging on a rope to keep it taut. If one drops the opposing line, the rope falls to the ground. If that rope were a bridge spanning a river and someone were trying to cross the river on the rope, opposition becomes very important, even critical to success. Opposition is two opposing forces pushing or pulling against each other to help us succeed. Opposition is a force for good. In order for the planets to continue in rotation, there must be an opposing force. For me to stand up from my chair, I must push against the floor using my muscles to push against the act of sitting still. Opposition is one of the resources we are given to achieve our desired result. Often we utilize opposition in our physical world to our disadvantage. In so doing, we beg to be controlled by outside forces instead of choosing to release control. An example of using opposition to our disadvantage could be having a definite vision of what we want our end result to look like. We are given opportunities that look a little differently, so we choose not to take them. To be most in control of our physical world, we must let go of control. By sacrificing one's own will in favor of following intuitive guidance while honoring and obeying the laws of the universe, we create the perfect space to embrace the life we have always wanted. This is utilizing opposition to our advantage. This is dancing with the powers of heaven and earth, rather than choosing that we like the foxtrot best, regardless of the music being played. This is immovable momentum. The last job I had, where I worked for an employer, I was making $12 per hour as a shipping manager. I clung so desperately to that job because without it, I envisioned us living desperately poor without any hope of rising above survival level. I was introduced to a real estate opportunity that I was very excited about. I gave this opportunity all my free time, and very quickly I began earning commissions that were double what my shipping job was paying me. Within 3 months, I could believe that I could quit my job and have my freedom to run my new real estate business. But I had the fear that if my commissions didn't continue as they had, I would have to find another job. The momentum came when I talked to a business owner whom I respected. I told him about my idea to quit my job and focus on my new career. Then I told him I was concerned that my commissions wouldn't continue as planned. I asked him very solemnly if that happened, would he please give me a job? The man laughed in my face. He said, "That would be like Michael Jordan mowing lawns for a living." He saw my potential for momentum with this new opportunity. All I saw was the same old dance I had been doing. Once I was able to let go of my old choices, I felt a resolve to make my new business work, no matter what. And that year, I made almost triple what I would have made if I had stayed at that former job. Immovable momentum was created when I cut off my exits and was not able to be moved from my decision to move forward with the new dance step that was more suited to me at that time. To help us better understand the concept, let's first look at immovable. Immovable is not immobile. Our most ancient writings tell us that God is immovable, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Firm, steadfast, a rock in a wayward stream. These all describe what immovable means. Science and religion hold to the idea that physical laws of the universe are immovable. Perhaps immutable or unalterable would be good synonyms. Absolute, ultimate truths are immovable. They apply to everyone, in every situation, all the time. An example of immovable truth is gravity. Now, let's look at momentum. Momentum implies action and movement, quite the opposite of immovable. However, when we push against an immovable object, our momentum is increased. Think of swimming in a pool. The only variable in the immovable momentum equation is me. I am immovable only to the extent I choose to be immovable. I have choice. The other parts of the equation, God, ultimate truth, universal law, have no choice. They must be immovable or they cease to be who and what they are. Consider the idea that when I cease to be immovable, I cease to be me. I, at my best, would choose to align with these inalterable beings and concepts for the sake of my own best experience. If I choose otherwise, I cease to be me at my best, which I consider to be the real me. In the same way that God, the universal laws and truths are immovable, I can choose to be immovable. As you will soon learn with the Gateway of Equity, you really do cease to be fully you when you choose to be anything other than immovable. By choosing to be immovable, you are the same as the universe, God, and truth. You now speak the language of the universe, so manifesting becomes just a matter of time and taking action on inspired next steps. When you are working in tandem with the universe, you are just as predictable and dependable as the sun coming up in the morning. You are in integrity to the highest degree. When God, the universal laws, highest truth, and you are working in tandem, your momentum of change and creation are intensified exponentially. You speak a thing, and it is so. You put something on your vision board, and it is done. You ask for a thing, and it shows up for you. Become predictable. Become immovable. When you do, the momentum at which you create, manifest, and receive abundance can be described only as miraculous. Immovable momentum allows us to determine the pace at which our creations are completed. To go faster or even to experience epic speed in manifesting, we must become immovable. That means we need to adhere very closely to the highest possible truths and make a full invested effort at obeying them. We need to become aligned with governing principles. We must let go of ego and pride, which can include what we think we want or even what we think we need. We adopt an attitude and a lifestyle of humility by letting go of control, which in effect gives us the most control over how quickly our life spirals upwards. To become immovable is pure, conscious obedience, obedience to the laws of creation and obedience to our daily intuitive actions. To gain the most control over the process, we must voluntarily surrender control to the process and trust the principles that govern them. The more immovable we become, the surer the outcome becomes. This level of obedience to true principles requires faith, because even though we have not yet seen the eventual outcome, we believe that obedience to the governing principles will result in the desired outcome. It is nothing less than the laws of the universe that takes us where we want to go. When we choose immovable momentum, we could also say that we have moved beyond the point of indecision. We willingly choose to obey the requirements of governing principles because we choose to be in alignment with them. We choose to be the highest and best we can be in all situations because that is who we are. We choose to be immovable to increase the speed and momentum at which all the pieces of our creations come together. At this stage of our development, we cannot be comfortable if we are out of alignment. It goes against our very nature. Milepost 4, Gateway 7, the Gateway of Equity. The counterfeit. My experiences are labeled good or bad based on how I label them. I am solely responsible for my choices and I deserve everything I receive. I should be rewarded or punished accordingly. God is just and all-powerful. I can only hope to be rewarded if I increase the value of my own personal equity by decreasing my debt with God and increasing my value by doing good. The truth. Occasional interruptions are necessary to force us to stop a perpetual downward slide. Occasional interruptions are necessary to force us to stop a perpetual downward slide. Water and people tend to seek the path of least resistance. If not shaken up once in a while, the gap between what is and what can be would become too big to span. There is a way to make up the difference between our choices and our intentions. I receive the natural result of my actions. However, God judges the intentions of the heart. He also provides endless forgiveness of debt to those who choose to accept His terms of repayment. My assessment. I have been seeing myself as successful, but only as it relates to another person's success. I expect to celebrate the victory vicariously through the company's success. I naively believe that because I'm giving my whole heart, if the creation is successful, I will be rewarded equally for its completion. But it isn't my creation. Therefore, I am not entitled to any portion that belongs to the real owner. Entering the gateway of equity. Christ says, "Give me all. I don't want so much of your time and so much of your money and so much of your work. I want you. I have not come to torment your natural self, but to kill it. No half measures are any good. I don't want to cut off a branch here and a branch there. I want to have the whole tree down. Hand over the whole natural self, all the desires which you think innocent as well as the ones you think wicked, the whole outfit. I will give you a new self instead. In fact, I will give you myself. My own will shall become yours." By C.S. Lewis. I now recognize and give equal credibility to my body, spirit, and mind in recognizing my creations and my purpose. I am genuinely and intrinsically valuable and important in fulfilling my own purpose. I am the only one who can do it. Therefore, I am separate from the success of others and immune from opinions and judgments of others who really are not part of my purpose. As I began pursuing my own authentic purpose, I began to see myself fully and truthfully for the first time. The 7 gateways are a very personal journey. Once I claimed ownership of my journey and only supported others as it also took me further along my path, I felt a passion begin to build within me. I now invest my whole heart and soul in navigating the 7 gateways successfully and arriving at my destination with absolute integrity. Everything is at stake, and the whole reward awaits. Here are the truths that changed my heart in my silent introspection. Number 1, I have a purpose of my own that deserves my wholehearted attention. Number 2, in successfully navigating the 7 gateways, I can expect to receive the natural result of giving my whole heart, which is the full portion of my reward. Equity makes up the difference. Malachi 2:6 says, "The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. In a home, equity is the difference between our total debt and how much we have paid towards the debt. It has been said that Christ is full of grace, equity, and truth. He is full of equity because he has no debt. He has no iniquity or inequity. He was perfect and created no debt that needed to be repaid. If we look at our own lives, we can possibly get an idea of the magnitude of what our individual debt might be using Christ's example as an equity measuring device. He is full of grace because he extends the same invitation to all, to walk with him and let him lighten our burdens. I do my part, giving my all, then I have permission to call upon his grace to make up the difference. He is full of truth because being perfect and upright, he was in full integrity with the highest truth and immovable laws at all times. The problem with using this perfect man as our comparison is that we may judge ourselves as so far from perfect that it is not possible to attain. The beauty of the fact that he was perfect is that he is full of an infinite amount of equity that never runs out. So he can loan us whatever we need to be in full integrity with repaying the debts we have created, just as he is. And we can arrive aligned at our ultimate destination. The highest version of our true nature is found within the gateway of equity. This gateway invites us to show the full measure of ourselves to the world. When we choose to step through the gateway of equity, we become an open book for all the world to see. What they see on the outside is the same as who we are on the inside. Within the gateway of equity, all our actions, our character, the home and life we have created for ourselves, the way our bodies look, our attitude, the people within our sphere of friendship and acquaintance, are all aligned completely with who we are. We are in full integrity in every area of life and business. The interesting dichotomy is that when we have not walked the 7 gateways, our whole day may be absorbed with trying to make people think we are something we wish we were. When we choose this final gateway of equity, we simply are. We radiate integrity. We go about our day with no thought to ourselves because we just are. The way I've defined integrity is more than a value I adopt. It is more than a way of life I choose. Integrity is a state of being that locks into place when everything in my personal universe is as it should be. All the pieces line up. I have and am everything that perfectly fits with the very core of my being. What is on the inside is meshed with what is on the outside. I become impeccable to the judgment of God, myself, and others because there is nothing to judge. Before you reject the idea of being perfect as unattainable, read on. Alignment and the Mirror of Erised. In J.K. Rowling's first book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the final test or charm protecting the Sorcerer's Stone is the Mirror of Erised. Only those who desired the Sorcerer's Stone for a pure purpose could attain it. According to J.K. Rowling's fan page, Pottermore, the Mirror of Erised was used as a superb hiding place and the final test for the impure of heart. Before the mirror was moved from one part of the castle to the cavern beneath the trap door in the third-floor corridor, Harry stumbled upon it and found that he could see himself with his parents. He felt a new kind of happiness brought about by the experience of interacting with his parents in the present, not just as a memory. It was not real, but Harry experienced it as if it were real. As Professor Dumbledore invited Harry to try to guess what the Mirror of Erised did, he gave him a clue. The happiest man on earth would look into the mirror and see only himself exactly as he is. Harry concluded, so then it shows us what we want, whatever we want. Yes and no, replied Professor Dumbledore. It shows us nothing more or less than the deepest and most desperate desires of our hearts. Then he told Harry the next day the mirror would be moved and asked him not to go looking for it. He finished his fatherly advice with some profound wisdom when he said, "Remember this, Harry. This mirror gives us neither knowledge nor truth. Men have wasted away in front of it, even gone mad. And then finally, it does not do to dwell on dreams, Harry, and forget to live." When Harry was living within a dream of what might have been, he was focused on something that could not exist in the present and would only cause him more pain in the end. The happiest man on earth is not only content with what he has and who he is, he knows that it is perfect for him. The deepest and most desperate desires of his heart are already realities in his physical world. Many get trapped inside this dream world. We either pretend to want what we already have and settle for a mediocre life, or we set high ideals and shoot for goals that seem to make others happy. Both are usually caused by not really knowing our own deepest desires, or what will bring us the most happiness and fulfillment. The reality is that each of us would see something different in the mirror of Erised. Must one have wealth, beauty, or a fairy tale romance to be happy? I have met many people who have neither of these and are extremely happy, so they must not be prerequisite to happiness. However, if I sit looking at that dream, wishing and hoping, it really means that I'm not happy at this moment. We are only fooling ourselves, as Harry was fooling himself as he looked longingly at his loving but dead parents. The reason is that only when we are content with what we have in our current reality can we bring what we truly want into physical creation. Does that seem a little crazy? Maybe. Yet it is how the universal laws work. Only when I am currently experiencing a loving spousal relationship can I have it in my reality. Only when I open a successful business can I show to the universe that I can be a good steward of a successful business. Only when I can prove to a banker that I don't need a loan can I secure it. To seek happiness in something that is out of alignment with who we are destined to become is madness. To choose what we want and then see how it already exists, that is to be happy now. Once we can see honestly that it already exists, we open the door for an even more tangible representation of it to manifest. Happiness is not a result of an achievement or acquiring a trinket. It is not achieved by the reaching of a goal. Happiness is a moment-by-moment look in the mirror of Erised. Is what I see in the mirror the same thing that I see in my physical world? And am I content that it is perfect in this moment? If the answer is yes, we are well on our way to successfully completing the gateway of equity. If no, then it is time to ask what next skill, lesson, or belief needs to be internalized so our world can be perfectly aligned with who we really are. So how do we prove to the universe that we can handle what we want? If the universe is a mirror that, like the mirror of Erised, exposes the impure of heart, then the gateway of equity is becoming pure of heart. Becoming pure of heart is the essence of the remainder of this book. A mirror to see your flaws and mine. Speaking of mirrors, there's another mirror that holds priceless value for discovering my blind spots when stepping up to the gateway of equity. This is the mirror that others are for me. What I see in others is a reflection of what I see in myself. Likewise, what I think about others reflects what I think about myself. For instance, if I look at you and see something that bothers me, I'm unwittingly viewing you in a mirror. I am seeing habits, behaviors, or traits in you that are actually inside of myself. I see something in you that is familiar to me, even if only subconsciously. There's something inside of me that feels uncomfortable. I've been unwilling to address this flaw, and here it is staring straight at me. I can't see it in myself, yet I can easily point it out in you. This reflection is a gift. A gift to help us come back into alignment with the purest form that existed before we acquired the flaw. The uncomfortable feeling is really our true nature trying to tell us we are out of alignment. We are sons and daughters of deity, and as such, we are heirs to the whole earth. In my belief, as children of deity, we are perfect. We have always been perfect. We came into this world perfect, and by living according to the 7 gateways, we can return to being perfect every day. Perfect in this sense means in integrity. We can choose every day to be obedient to the inspired shortcuts we're given in our daily GPS practice. We can level up our beliefs daily to align with the highest truth we're aware of, and we can make choices based on the highest version of us we are capable of embracing in this moment. I believe that something about the journey to Earth from the pre-mortal realm causes forgetfulness. As we enter mortality and experience life as a physical being, we begin to give credit to beliefs that support the idea that our physical world is the most important part of our existence. Without the knowledge of our royal heritage, we create skewed judgments of who we must be. These judgments about ourselves are based on our experiences and surroundings, our parents and siblings, home situations, social acceptance, religious preference of our families, physical challenges such as birth defects and disease. All of these become the lens through which we see our greatness. A perceived blemish is very uncomfortable to us because deep down we recognize and remember who we are at the soul level. Perfect. And we want to be that person again. Therefore, if I see something in you I don't like, it is an invitation to look within myself and see what is making me squirm. It could be that I see you as being out of integrity with your word. So the many times I have not kept my word is knocking on the inside of my brain saying, hello, do you not remember when you told your husband you would be home at 5:30 and you didn't show up until 6? Even a little out of integrity is out of integrity, especially if it is a pattern. The divinity in me recognizes this and projects the disappointment of incongruity onto the other person. But the truth is always there. I am the one with the integrity problem. Another way to look at this is in association with limiting beliefs. It could be that you are not the one out of integrity, but have taken on a belief about yourself because of someone's lack of integrity in the past. For example, perhaps my mother forgot she had promised to take me to the park on Saturday and we never actually went. This is not a huge deal. It happens. But it is not the size of the sin that matters. It is the fact that not keeping your word goes against our most divine and perfect understanding of the integrity that a mother or father figure represents. If mom is supposed to have perfect integrity and she forgot, then I must have done something horrible to not deserve a park adventure. I take on the belief I am bad and attach it to integrity. So whenever I see someone else being out of integrity, the mirror shows me I am bad. I know this sounds messed up, but we can trace all our inappropriate judgments of ourselves back to small, perceived traumas or big, real traumas where erroneous decisions were made about ourselves. We must assume this is the perfect way for us to learn because this is the way that it happens. If it weren't supposed to be like that, there would be some of us who would continue knowing our divine worth perfectly without ever having to be reminded. So whether it is something in me that needs to change and I haven't been willing to look at it yet, or if it is a trauma, perceived or real, that caused me to have an inaccurate view of integrity, the person in front of me has now become my greatest teacher. This teacher is pointing out how I can realign myself to the person I've always been. How awesome is that? Rather than getting angry, frustrated, or upset at this person, I should be throwing a welcome party and celebrating that this person is providing the perfect opportunity for me to uncover the decision I made as a child and the misalignment I have been allowing within myself. The breakthrough process detailed in my special edition book co-authored with Chris Crone, Limitless, Reclaim Your Power, Unleash Your Potential, Transform Your Life, is specifically designed to help you discover and realign your childhood decisions that are no longer serving you. Go to my website, https://wylenebenson.com/product-category/books/ to find out how you can purchase a copy of this powerful book. It is often easier and less painful to see imperfections in ourselves in a mirror than it is to ask someone to point them out. So seeing others as a mirror is a gift. When something comes up, we can ask, is this me? If the answer feels like a yes, address it. Changing is a mere choice away, a choice to be better today than we were yesterday based on the new information we have right now. That is the journey to integrity and a huge step towards the gateway of equity. A mirror gives us an opportunity to look inside, inspect imperfections, and correct them. It may require a little courage for us to ask ourselves why we are bothered by what we are seeing in others, but as we commit to the gateway of equity, we actually go searching for feedback that we can change so we can become more of the person we know we truly are. The more fully aligned we become, the easier it is for us to receive feedback with an open mind. I have learned for myself that anything that bothers me is my stuff, something I need to work on. My alignment is so important to me that I immediately begin an introspection for what may be amiss in myself. The good news is that as we approach a state of 100% integrity, purging ourselves of blemishes and flaws, we begin to love those around us unconditionally. As we become more pure and clear, we see the untarnished spirit inside of them. Remember, they are a mirror. If I'm aligned, then I am perfect with where I am right now. So others cannot reflect anything negative back to me, only their true nature. And how beautiful that pure spirit is. When we are in integrity, it is possible to love everyone on the planet with pure charity. When we understand our worth, we know that every person who has ever lived has that same worth and potential, and we can love them all the more, even unconditionally, because of it. Likewise, if someone gives me feedback about something I'm doing that bothers them, it could be an opportunity for me to look inside and come into closer alignment. Or it may actually be that I am posing as a mirror and a teacher for them. There may be some truth to what they see, and I will know there is if what they say stings a little. If it rolls right off, it is most likely their stuff they need to work on. I just had a call today with a potential mentor who exposed a raw emotion by asking a simple question. I could have easily shoved it aside and maybe even gotten mad at her for asking the question. Rather, I texted her back and thanked her. Because of the emotion that was triggered in me, I knew she had hit upon a truth that I had not wanted to look at in the past. That is my favorite thing about mentors. They can share information from a neutral space. It's no great loss to them if I don't receive it, but they are way too conscious to just let a real problem slide. For most unconscious people, they think they are seeing something in others that they don't like, when what they are seeing really exists in them. We tend to recognize around us those things that are familiar to us. For instance, some people are offended when they see someone whispering and pointing in their direction. Others tend to think they are saying something nice and they feel complimented. It almost always serves to consider the feedback from others as valid first, even if there is ill intent. We have so many blind spots, especially in the beginning, that we should still take a quick peek inside to see if we indeed have any issues lurking. I always can trust my heart to confirm any suspicions. If I honestly find myself impeccable in that area, then I can let it go. If I have a really good relationship with the person who's providing the feedback, I could ask if they have personal experience with that issue. In this way, I become a mirror for them and can help them become more aligned with who they truly are. Acting as a mirror for someone else in this way is a service of love. Many are not in a place to receive feedback, so use your intuition in continuing the discussion or just leaving it. Engaging them in a discussion requires complete neutrality on your part and to proceed without judgment or emotional attachment to how they receive it. When I am in alignment, I can listen impartially. Others can say anything they want to me without disturbing me or risking our relationship. Neutral doesn't mean emotionally dead. It means you are unconditional with how things turn out and whether the person decides to change or not. It takes a very practiced ear to remain neutral in any circumstance. That is the confidence that the Gateway of Equity brings. I have told the story often of my mother-in-law who came to visit after a 4-hour road trip from her home. She had phoned me just before leaving, so I knew I had 4 hours to clean my house. My mother-in-law had a fetish for clean, and I always felt inferior in that regard. I spent the entire 4 hours cleaning while she and her husband were driving. Upon her arrival at my home, I proudly opened the door to my spotless abode, with the exception of one blemish, a drop of ketchup on the butter flap in the fridge. Guess how long it took her to find that drop of ketchup? About 10 minutes. And then she offered to clean it for me. I had in the past been prone to go to self-judgment and shame at an offer like that. But this time, I burst out laughing. I had reached the end of my belief that I had to honor the standard of clean that belonged to my mother-in-law. It was enough. I no longer chose her fetish for cleanliness as something I had to copy. I allowed her to have her fetish back, and from that point on, I never cleaned up for her arrival. She got to experience me in my authenticity, and if she chose to be upset or annoyed, it was all her stuff. The rest of the story is that for the final 10 years of her life, we had a wonderful relationship. She had nothing but good to say of her daughter-in-law, even though my home was never immaculate when she visited. The change happened when I allowed her to have her beliefs and I had mine. I did not receive the feedback as judgment any longer. I merely saw it as someone stating the highest truth for her. She was perfect in her home, and I was perfect in mine. Growing to perfect integrity. Impeccable is such a charged word, isn't it? It conveys a feeling of being without blemish, without problems, and is often referred to as being without sin. Although we strive for impeccability as we embrace the gateway of equity, it takes some time to grow into perfect harmony and integrity with who we are. Remember, we don't have perfect recollection of who we were before we acquired a physical body in a world where people are fond of blaming their own flaws on others. As we test out new ways of being, there are some ways that feel like home and others that feel unfamiliar. Many people refuse to change because they don't want to lose who they are. They think it won't feel good to become someone they're not. They think that doing so would put them out of integrity. In reality, the opposite is true. We rediscover who we are as we align more closely with the person we always have been. Being in perfect alignment, we reach a place that is actually wonderfully comfortable. Integrity is not a quest for perfection, but a quest for aligning with the highest truth for me. My version of perfect is different than your version of perfect. Those differences are okay. More than okay, they are essential. Think back to the gateway of charity. If we all have the same gifts, we can't love and serve each other. There are gaps in all of us. If we were all the same gaps would exist in all of us with no one to fill them. However, if we have various versions of perfect depending on our beliefs, values, talents, and abilities, then we can serve each other in ways that are helpful. When I need you and you need me, there's more room for connection, gratitude, and charity. If it feels best for me to have a lived-in feel in my home, then I should align myself with that truth. If it feels best for my mother-in-law to have an immaculately clean home, then that is what her version of perfect is. In this way, there really is no way we can compare ourselves to each other. Our version of perfect is based on what we believe about ourselves and the world around us in the present moment. I may choose to change at any given moment, just as the gateway of obedience suggested that I may grow and come to a point where even prosperity is not enough. My version of perfect can change from time to time as well. I used to have the belief that it was better to have a messy house because I wanted people to feel comfortable. Obviously, that is just a belief because some people are more comfortable in a clean home. I have leveled up that belief as I've found old patterns and decisions that no longer feel good to me. I'm growing and changing every day, and so should my beliefs. At the time I held that belief, it was the highest that I could believe. In this way, even a hoarder could be impeccably perfect if he is living according to the highest version he can believe about himself in that moment. Imperfection and being out of alignment comes only when we know what our highest self would feel most comfortable with and we choose not to change the behavior to line up with it. It would be almost like we are rebelling against our own nature. When we can say to our current knowledge there is nothing inside of us that we have not already addressed or that we are not willing to address, then we can honestly claim to be perfect. When we are perfect or in alignment, no one can make us angry or diminish our peace. That discomfort comes when the mirror reveals a blind spot about ourselves we have not yet considered, or when we know about it and we are unwilling to change it. When we have that knowledge, we can choose if we want to up-level our beliefs and our behavior to become perfect again, or we can choose to remain out of alignment. If we're willing to look introspectively when someone points out a flaw, then our worst villains can serve as our greatest teachers. If someone mentions an issue that they believe they see inside of us, we can be grateful for the opportunity to inspect it and cure the defect. We are conscious enough to deal with it when we see their perspective neutrally. We receive it as nothing more than a chance to live at an even higher level. As we step into alignment, we find that there is never a reason to be upset by something another person says. If what they say is true, I know it's true because it bugs me, then we receive it and repair it, and we can even thank the person for taking the time to help us. If it's not true, I feel completely at peace about it, then we smile and say, "Thanks for sharing," and then move on. Internally, we can wish them the best in working on their own stuff. It brings tremendous tranquility into our lives when we can take a step back and say, that's interesting, from a neutral and loving place, regardless of what the person said or did. Every now and then, we might find ourselves feeling a little ruffled at something someone says. If we're open to alignment and honest enough with ourselves, it will be an "oh, wow" moment because we realize we are discovering something we had not looked at before. A life of struggle is the one where we fight or put off investigating because we don't want to see the truth. The easiest life is one where we immediately shift our attitude and realign ourselves with the new knowledge we just acquired. As we begin to spot the things that are out of alignment with what we choose and who we are at our highest and best, everything becomes either urgent or repulsive. The urgent is embraced readily and quickly. The repulsive is released and turned away from. Excess weight, too much stuff, volunteering or donating in a way that is not beneficial to me and my purpose. Yes, even humanitarian and philanthropic efforts can be out of alignment. Too little money, a home with a floor plan that doesn't allow space to express oneself, a job that stifles creativity, all are out of alignment and are keeping us from being the perfect versions of ourselves. Allow me to share a recent experience I had with someone who received some bad news. She shared with a few of us that she was upset because she was just passed over for a job promotion. The others who heard her story said things like, "Oh, you're so sweet. I can't believe they didn't choose you." And "we're here to support you." Yet they had no idea how to support her. I asked her to tell me her belief about the situation, and she began immediately telling me about her childhood in a controlling environment and how that affected her current life. She felt that because of her childhood, she would never really excel in her career. I asked if she thought it was productive to allow her beliefs about her childhood to control her life now. She asked what I meant. I told her, "Listen to the language you use. What decisions are you making right now about what you can and can't have?" She immediately recognized that I was approaching her predicament much differently than her other friends had. I helped her see her accountability. She saw that she was blaming her childhood for her lack of success as an adult. Perhaps it was a little callous to be so direct, but when we are in alignment, there is no need to hide behind false facades. Think of a surgeon who chooses to use the blunt edge of a spoon to do his work because the sharp edge of the scalpel just seems too harsh. Of course, the opposite is true, and where the spoon would be very painful and leave a horrible scar, the scalpel, although also painful, is sharp and exact, resulting in the least amount of trauma and injury. Precision and willingness to get right to the issue may sting a little. The immediacy may seem rude and even unfeeling, but the experience will be less intrusive overall with much quicker healing. I may only have one opportunity to impact a person's life for good. I only have that moment, and it is my intention to make a difference in that one moment. My friend recognized that I was not being purposefully or unnecessarily harsh with her, but that I wanted to get the job done as quickly and painlessly as possible. Be a third-party observer. Another woman had a recent experience at an event where she became upset when a friend yelled her name down the hall of the convention center. She became so upset that she ducked into the nearest ladies' room to hide and deal with the emotional trauma she was experiencing. She had assumed the lady was angry with her. I led her through an exercise and asked her to take a step back from the situation and put a scientist's lab coat on. I invited her to, in her imagination, take out her clipboard and look at the situation dispassionately, as though she were an uninterested third-party observer of the situation. I told her to now review the occurrence in her mind and see it from that new perspective. This exercise helped her see the scene from a completely different perspective. She imagined entirely different intentions on the part of the yeller and was able to step out of upset and emotional trauma. When we are able to assist people into alignment like this, it opens up a new world of understanding and perspective, helping them approach the gateway of equity as well. Their newfound alignment replaces strife with peace and positive perspective. Mirroring is not the only thing that triggers flaws in our alignment. Stress and deliberately seeking out our next level of growth are also effective ways to see the parts of us that are out of alignment. I well recall a recent public speaking course that I took in a condensed format, 6 months of content in a 2-week period of time. I was greatly stressed and brought to tears every day as I was repeatedly confronted with my own shortcomings. This type of a situation where there is little time to process through and recover from something that blindsides you is palatable only with an amazing support system. The course was based in love, and I received even more supportive feedback than the suggestions for change, which created a safe environment for growth. Each day in the course, I was shown aspects of myself I could improve. I had an opportunity to proactively put a mirror in front of me based on the feedback I was receiving. Most days, I had adequate emotional intelligence to receive insight into my flaws and defects and chose to change them. Other days, I asked and received the support needed to continue moving forward. It was a very empowering experience. Sometimes discovery comes through stress, sometimes mirroring, and sometimes from my own inquiry in my private connection with my maker or someone I trust. My goal in the Gateway of Equity is to find the things that are not allowing me to show myself in full alignment and eliminate them as soon as I become aware of them. Just as a misalignment in the spine can be more easily corrected when the person seeks professional help early, it is much easier to realign ourselves the moment we recognize our belief system is out of alignment with what we really want. Certainly, the sooner problems are discovered and identified, the less painful they are to overcome. When I take immediate action, I skip the pain of having them exposed at an inconvenient time, when I might lack the resources or immediate opportunity to deal with them appropriately. I feel that working on myself in private, seeking out those little habits and defects with the intention of becoming more perfectly aligned, is much better than being triggered in public. Although the daily discovery of blemishes and flaws can be somewhat painful, we are grateful for the discovery process and that we have the tool of giving ourselves permission to proceed. We also have the resource of connection to trusted guides to help us through to the other side of pain. On the other side of pain is purity and a clearer vision of our infinite worth. As we go through this refining and discovery process, the pain lessens and the shifts happen more quickly. That is when we know we are living daily in the Gateway of Equity. Aligning with natural laws. Proverbs 23:7 says, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." If I am focused on the things that bring me happiness, I am happy. The reverse is true also. If I am focused on results that bring me pain and suffering, even if it is just to worry about them, then that is what I will bring myself. Having a more intimate relationship with universal laws, I now get it. I create my own happiness, and I also create my own pain and suffering by what I focus on. For instance, as I shared in the Gateway of Obedience, there are certain laws, rules, and universal truths on which certain results are based. An example of this might be movement. We know that it takes less energy to keep an object moving than it requires to get it moving from a dead stop. So if we let a project come to a screeching halt, it is much harder to get going again. If we stay with it and keep moving it along, it is much easier to reach the finish line than it would be if we walked away and ignored it for a few months or years. We know movement is the natural state of things. Everything is energy, and energy is in constant motion. Quantum physicists have found that even matter, the building block of seemingly solid objects, is energy. That which slows to a stop will cease to exist in its current state, cease to fulfill the measure of its creation, and eventually cease to live. Look at how atoms are made up of orbiting particles and how solar systems and galaxies are comprised of orbiting bodies. Our universe is constantly in motion from the smallest subparticles to the largest supergalactic systems. The universe is teeming with immovable momentum, the type of momentum that is perpetuated because of its immovable or immutable nature. The constant and predictable behavior of a thing is what gives it purpose, shape, constituent elements, and life. To the extent that we are willing to align ourselves with that predictable movement, discovering and obeying the ebb and flow of the natural laws of motion and accumulation, we will find the universe offers its assistance in accomplishing our desires much more efficiently than if we tried to fight the laws of nature and set our own pace. The more closely we align with the natural momentum of the universe and the more parallel we are to its natural rhythm, the more immovable we become as well. Immovable momentum is keeping things moving in the direction of focus while staying obedient to the laws that will get us where we want to go in the shortest gestation period. Thus, it is my desire to remain in integrity with immovable momentum. This keeps me in flow with the energy of the universe as I am simultaneously remaining in integrity with my own truth. One way I stay in immovable momentum is to check in with my goals daily so that they never slow to a stop. This puts me in a very desirable position. Just as surely as an action produces an equal and opposite reaction, my momentum will most definitely result in the desired outcome, as long as it is in alignment with the natural laws that surround it. A rocket ship has to align with the orbit of a celestial body before it can leap into orbit. We must align with the energy and laws that govern a new goal we are stretching to reach before we will be allowed into its atmosphere. In the Gateway of Obedience, I offered a suggestion that if we became as obedient as a carrot, our gestation time can be just as predictable as a carrot. Yet on the back of the seed packet, the time from seed to table can vary from 1 to 3 weeks. Why the large gap in gestation? What makes the difference between 1 and 3 weeks? It's not the carrot, it's the circumstances it lives in. The carrot is affected by how much sun it receives, how much water, how cold or hot the temperature is, how deep it is planted, etc. If I want to become a carrot farmer, I first need to learn all the natural laws surrounding growing carrots. I prepare the soil, plant a carrot seed, and provide it with water and nutrients on the schedule and in the quantities that are optimum. I ensure I plant in a place where the seed will have sufficient water, warmth, and other things it needs. The more closely I follow the proven directions given by the universe for growing carrots successfully, my chances of harvesting carrots in the shortest gestation period is increased. Conversely, I could believe that I am an especially gifted farmer and an heir to greatness. I could believe that my position as this regal farmer exempts me from aligning myself with the governing laws of successfully harvesting carrots. I could take some carrot seeds out of the package and throw them at the hard ground. I could ignore them, never water them or weed them. If I really believe with all my heart and focus on the belief that I'm a gifted farmer and that I will get beautiful sweet carrots regardless of how I plant and care for my carrots, what can I expect from that effort? Not a single carrot. If I have a strong belief, but my actions are out of alignment with what I know to be the highest truth, then I am not immovable as the laws are immovable, and I will not have immovable momentum. But let's say I do some of the necessary steps, like prepare the soil and plant the carrot seeds. I ensure they get sunshine, etc. The one thing I don't do is see to it that they get enough water and nutrients. Sure, there are some nutrients already in the soil, and a little rain falls during the growing season. So I will likely harvest some carrots. However, they may not be as plump, sweet, or nutritious as they would be had I better aligned myself with the known laws of growing carrots. If the farmer does not give the carrot enough water, that one variable will lengthen the gestation or diminish the return that can be expected because a lack of water does not align with the needs of the carrot. When I, as the farmer, become immovable to the laws that govern carrot growing and perfectly obey them, the gestation period is predictable. It is predictably the shortest possible with the greatest reward. How closely I align with the known laws is the immovable part. The momentum part of immovable momentum refers to how fast I get my result. Gestation becomes a predictable, known quantity when we align ourselves with natural laws. By predictable, I mean that we are able to predict time frames to the extent we understand the laws. Success comes within the fastest possible time frame according to our alignment with universal law. We receive the results of whatever laws or beliefs we align ourselves with. This is true of positive results and negative results. We reap what we sow. There is a result for each action we take. When we align ourselves with laws of doing good to others, we will reap the associated positive results. If, however, we align ourselves with laws of selfishness, crime, abuse, addiction, etc., we will reap those negative results. If we continue to align ourselves unchecked with these negative laws, we may eventually experience disaster. The highest truth. Immovable momentum comes when aligning ourselves with the highest truth. By highest truth, I mean the truth that is closest to the laws that God and the universe obey. Since I am personally on a constant quest of uncovering truth in an even higher degree, I may not know exactly what the absolute highest truth is right now. Does that mean I have to keep searching before I obey? No, for it is in the very act of implementing and obeying what I have previously learned that takes me to the next level of knowledge. As I am constantly seeking to be in alignment and daily seeking to be as close to the highest truth possible, I will be in a very good place to receive more when I am ready for it. The gateway of humility taught me to ever be the student, seeking my next lesson. Every seed of truth that is planted and nurtured grows to more truth. I encourage all my clients to be entirely open to tiny tweaks and corrections. I help them focus on the daily task of actively seeking the highest truth with which they can align themselves at their current phase of development. This discovery of truth often comes in steps. For example, I might write a question or write a statement of truth the way I currently understand it and put it on my vision board. I check in with it daily and listen for any new thoughts that add to what I already perceive as truth. After a couple of days or even weeks of looking at the words that seemed perfect in the moment I wrote them, I suddenly find that a key word will jump out at me and grab my attention because it now feels out of alignment. Based on what I have learned since writing it, there is something that feels off. It is not close enough to the truth I now believe. In those moments, I realize that the truth I am just now seeing was there the whole time. I didn't see it in the beginning because I wasn't the person I needed to be in order to see that truth. It wasn't that I was ignorant or not paying attention when I first wrote my vision. What I wrote was absolutely in alignment with what I knew in the moment I wrote it. What changed? Did the truth change? No, the truth is immovable, remember? Did the angle of the light on my vision board change? Possibly. Most likely, though, it was me. I changed. That is, I grew to accommodate my own higher truth. There was something within me that finally developed to the point where I could see it differently. That is what allowed the corresponding shift in my perspective. In altering the words on my vision board, the whole picture changes. So then I get to sit with the words I've written, get comfortable with them, and see if I'm willing to accept the new word or phrase that more closely aligns with the immovable nature of a higher truth. Of course, I also have another choice in this situation, one which I am not willing to entertain. And that other choice is to stubbornly or absent-mindedly keep the statement the way it is, forever freezing my progression at that level. Many people go to great lengths to create elaborate visuals and recordings of their affirmations and goals. I do have a system of recording and reading my declarations daily. I value this process, but I don't plan to keep it static for any length of time. My knowledge changes moment to moment, and I'm open to leveling up to the highest truth on that same timetable. My vision board always has words crossed out and new words written in that support my creation better and put me even more in an immovable space of momentum. Isn't it interesting that being open to change takes us to being even closer to becoming unchangeable? Thomas Jefferson said, "In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principle, stand like a rock." With all of this movement, how do we ensure that we are moving in the correct direction? In the same way that a kite moves in the natural direction of the wind, we find that stabilizing it with a tail helps the kite make those tiny course corrections of new wind patterns without overcorrecting and causing it to drop out of the sky. As we employ all the gateways we've learned, our personal rudder, proactively aligning with our highest truth in our daily GPS, will keep us on the correct course. Our personal rudder, like the tail of a kite, is guided by our internal desire for a free soul. In the gateway of charity and the gateway of humility, we find that we rely on the gifts and support of others to find our way and achieve our potential. We develop partnerships that are synergistic in producing exponential results as we spur one another on to greater heights. The realization that it's not all about me has a tremendous influence on our rudder, keeping it straight and true, and giving us small course corrections by receiving feedback from others as we encounter forces that would deter us from our true course. Mentors and other guides can read the wind by watching the tail of our kites perhaps better than we can in our first attempts at climbing to new heights. One of my mentors regularly shares his formula for achieving success as identifying and breaking through 1,000 limiting beliefs. Is his formula absolutely true? Maybe, maybe not. Do you want it to be true? Is it sound advice? Only you can know, and you will only really know for sure when you try it. Track the number of limiting beliefs that comes up as you move through the space of creation towards the life you are committed to building for yourself. Each time you feel a low vibration emotion such as resentment, anxiety, doubt, anger, frustration, take a moment and ask, where's this coming from? Your intuition will show you and give you the words. Then either choose into a new belief or actually go back to the origin of the limiting belief, when a destructive decision was made at an emotionally charged moment. Refer to my special edition of the book Limitless, Reclaim Your Power, Unleash Your Potential, Transform Your Life for the entire origin breakthrough process. As you commit to and work through 1,000 limiting beliefs, your life will be transformed. Happiness awaits those who can step out of fear and pain and step into love and faith simply because they choose to. Does it take 1,000 breakthroughs to create a successful life? I don't know. Does it take more than 10? Probably. I still notice limiting beliefs coming up, and I passed my 10th breakthrough a long time ago. But they are less frequent and more easily dismissed than ever before. My suggestion is to choose to give yourself permission to proceed beyond all your limiting beliefs. Visualize your daily success in detail and notice when any fear emotion surfaces. Make the commitment to take action immediately as those emotions arise by leaving behind the underlying belief and keeping on your path to success. When we know who we are and what we are creating, we can stay in immovable momentum regardless of the resistance that comes up. When the reason we are moving is bigger than the limitation, we find ourselves more easily able to hold firm to what we know to be true. Align yourself with a cause that lights a fire inside your soul. Follow the course that stokes the fire. Final advice. A final piece of advice that someone once gave me. If you will do for 2 years what others will not, you will have for the rest of your life what others only dream about. How do we apply this sound piece of advice? One way is to practice the daily GPS I have taught you. Take a moment to connect with your goals and your highest source of inspiration. Obey immediately the inspired shortcuts you receive through inspired guidance. Then proactively seek the reasons behind any negative limitations that are holding you back. Have the courage to live your life in the space where all creation happens. You will feel like you are in a free fall with no solid ground to stand on. Yet, in time, you will grow to love this feeling. You will never want to live without it. Remember, in the creative space, we can't see the next steps or the outcome, but there is a power outside of us who can. What you can depend on is the accuracy of the information you receive. I have never received an inspired hint that didn't eventually play out as the best and most efficient path. You have this one tool, your daily GPS, to guide you every step of the way. If you can trust that one shortcut at a time is enough, you can have anything you choose. The gateway of abundance is waiting for you at the very moment you walk through the gateway of faith. Abundance exists. Faith launches you into the middle of it. The gateway of charity gives you all you lack through gifted team members and accepting your own greatness. As you give your whole self to excellence, you open the floodgates of wealth and influence. Next, feel gratitude for what has already been created, because that is your ticket to the gateway of prosperity. It's great to celebrate, and yes, it's good to bask in your success and the blessings of results well earned. But when you feel the pull of a higher mission and purpose, risk it all by moving forward again out of sheer obedience and love for yourself and anticipation of what's next. If you stay put, your place of prosperity becomes a comfort zone that will eventually feel more like a prison. After the gateway of obedience, which propels you back into your creative space, resist the urge to stroke your ego of how easy life is with the discipline you have fostered in your life and career. Remember who you were before you walked this path, and remember the support you received through the gateway of charity from all the people, past, present, and future, who have inspired you to become who you are today. And above all, remember your source of inspiration, the one who illuminates the shortcuts for you. The gateway of humility will allow you to continue receiving the abundance and wealth you've enjoyed so far and open the way for even more to be experienced. And finally, the gateway of equity allows us to feel the peace of alignment that comes when the Spirit is allowed to speak and even lead. The gateway of equity is defined by living in integrity every day with the highest truths we can embrace in the moment, and then calling upon and accepting the helping hand of Jesus Christ to close the gap. He has the limitless ability to help us see beyond the physical to a higher commitment of immovable momentum, integrating body and spirit aligned with the same truths that God subscribes to. Christ's sacrifice is sufficient for us to choose every day to change and become more aligned with universal laws, being the student to constantly level up our knowledge of them. When Jesus is walking with me and I accept Him as my teacher, it's a gentle invitation to receive instruction. If I choose to force my will, it takes longer. My way is always striving, but never arriving. God's way is arriving in record time because the way is simple and easy. Jesus has been called the Good Shepherd. He rescues the lost and directionless sheep by calling them to Him. There's no force, only an outstretched hand. Striving is fight or flight, survival, fear, reacting, forcing physical change. Arriving is faith, gratitude, love, one daily inspired step, and allowing physical change as a result of action. The path to peace and freedom and wealth, wisdom, strength, honor, and the power of positive influence lies in your decision to enter through the 7 gateways. When you do, you will courageously take both baby steps and quantum leaps. You will integrate what you learn into your very being every day. In this way, you and I can be perfect every day. Some look at perfection as an unattainable goal. The fact is that each of us is capable of being in perfect integrity every day. The problem with most people is that they try to jump forward to perfection without walking through the 7 gateways first. It is possible to arrive aligned. Give yourself permission to try. There are many lessons beyond what we learn in the 7 gateways. Each of us is on our own path with experiences unique to us. However, these 7 principles, along with the daily practice of gratitude, courageously choosing to let go of limiting beliefs in order to align with truth, and connecting with God, are together the foundation that support us through every new level toward perfection. Jesus Christ is the equity we need to be complete, whole, and perfect. He has promised us that if we give ourselves to Him, that He is able to carry us. In fact, the deed has already been done. He has already sacrificed His life for our benefit. He did the suffering so we don't have to. All we need to do is turn to Him, ask, and receive the amount we lack to make up the difference so we can be whole, just as He is whole, and become joint heirs with Him in our Father's eyes. Even before walking through the gateways, you were eligible. However, with the 7 gateways, you have been prepared on the conditions He has established, that you become perfectly aligned with Him and the Father. You are worthy to receive His mercy. As He gives, He is filled. His pure love is infinitely abundant and cannot be diminished. Your rite of passage through the gateway of equity. How aligned are you with equity? Evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is completely aligned. Number 1, I see myself as I am reflected in the eyes of others. I am grateful for my teachers who are as a mirror, showing me the greatness and the weakness within me. I eagerly make changes to find the best that lies within me. I am also willing to be the mirror for others. I am able to step outside of the situation as a third-party observer. I know that what others see in me is only a recognition of what exists within them. Number 2, I acknowledge that each of us is on our own path and at a different level of understanding of the highest truth. As such, each of us has our own version of perfect at any given moment in time. Every person's journey to integrity, alignment, and perfection is as personal and unique as each individual. Number 3, I am committed to daily seeking the highest truth and aligning to the best of my ability with that truth. I accept the guidance and support offered to me by divine and earthly mentors. I let my spirit lead, trusting that I am able to discern truth. Number 4, I give my best every day and seek the infinite equity of Jesus Christ to make up the difference. Matthew 5:48 says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect."